Good evening, my friends. This is Paul, aka the Catholic Nintendo Nerd. Although a lot of you might be thinking, how are you a Catholic Nintendo Nerd? Most of your video content has been gaming related over the past couple of months. I've answered this question quite a bit on live streams, and while I'd like to think that I gave a satisfactory answer, not everyone watches live streams. The answer is that when I started up my rebooted my channel back in 2016, that was all that I did was Catholic videos. And I'd like to think I covered most of the major points. The problem is that Catholicism is what's known as a deposit of faith, meaning that Jesus came along and he created the church, then he taught his group of disciples, and then those disciples taught their disciples, and so on and so on and so on, up to the present day Pope and the Magisterium and the archbishops, etc. So, essentially, we've been holding on to the same truth for 2,000 years. And you can only talk about so much of that truth before it starts to become repeat material. Good evening, my friends. This is Paul, and I am almost speechless right now because 2 years ago, in July of 2018, I experienced a Eucharistic miracle that healed my back and shoulders of tremendous pain that I should have received much, much later in my years. And I was able to share my testimony that I gave at the Catholic Heart Work Camp where it happened on YouTube. This time, I actually do have actual tangible evidence on my Facebook page to prove that this indeed happened, that I'm not just making it up, I'm not a crazy person. So in a couple of minutes you'll see me popping the footage, or not the footage, the pictures on the screen, and I'll be able to say, like, this was her response. But first I'm going to tell you what happened and why what she said was so cool. So what happened was I was in a discussion, and to make a long story short, and without getting ridiculously personal, I accidentally insulted one of the young women on the page. I was not trying to make her feel bad, or I was not intentionally trying to be rude, but she took it as such. And as one who has struggled with socializing for pretty much his entire life, I took it really, really hard. Like, so hard, I ended up quitting the group, I ended up deleting the conversation, and I realized that I couldn't just sit by myself and be distressed. So in a very, very, very uncharacteristic move for my personality, for those of you that watch my Myers-Briggs videos, you know that generally speaking, I'm not really the kind of guy that just explodes with emotion. I generally keep it pretty much on the inside. It's typically in the background. I opened the door and I screamed as loudly as I could for help. But no one was in the house. I was all alone, and I was so scared. And eventually I realized that I had to do something. So I got down on my knees and I just murmured to thin air, "Help me. God help me." Well, approximately 24 hours has passed since that happened. And now you're about to see exactly what response I got from that response told to thin air. So see for yourself. So the first message was actually sent at roughly the same time as I filmed that earlier that day portion of this video. She writes, "Hey Paul, are you okay? I got woken up in the night to pray for hours for a Paula from Facebook. I only know 2. You're one of 2, so I'm checking on you. Now, just in case you think that I'm not providing enough evidence, it's not that I don't have it, it's that I'm choosing not to present it for fear of violating people's privacy, and honestly, I don't want everyone snooping my entire personal life outside YouTube, so I do know the girl's name, I do know what she looks like, I'm just choosing to preserve her anonymity." So this is part 1 of the message train. So after I said that, I explained that I was probably the Paul she was referring to. Here's what she responded. So this next part says, "Yeah, God said Paul was extremely upset, and so I'm so glad I did. I will keep them up, Paul. I stayed up almost literally all night praying. So God is good, and he hears your prayers. Now, again, this could just be, oh, Paul, she's repeating what you just told her, because you said in your message that you were extremely upset. So she's just, I don't know, she happened to be praying for you or something. But then she gets really specific in this third message. Not 100% specific, but close enough to someone who has literally no means of communicating with me. And here's the final kicker. Well, not everyone will get up and pray all night, so he only has some people God can ask for prayers. That sounds most right with what you're saying. Yes, it was that you needed help right away. He doesn't wake me unless it's urgent. It was like emotional duress the person was having, mental and emotional, not physical. There's no way she would have known that, because that's not specifically what I mentioned. I mentioned that I got into a disagreement, but I didn't mention what... Well, I did mention it was on a group, but for all you know, some people do try to hurt themselves when they are in pain. I was not. Yet she somehow knew that it wasn't physical. So continuing, she responds, anyways, okay, I'm still working now, but I'm glad it helped, of course. That was a response to me thanking her for everything that she had done. God bless you, and I'm sure the Lord wanted to encourage you by letting you know he heard you. So to put this into further perspective, just in case you still don't see this as a miracle, so when I was actually crying out for help, no one, I repeat, no one was in the house. The door, I was in the area of our house between the garage and my bedroom. And the door to the outside was a very, very, very thick door. So thick it like drags along the floor and takes its sweet time to open. The window was closed, and like I said, I was bellowing, hoping that someone would hear me. No one heard me. So I was all alone. The only person that could feasibly have heard me was God. And somehow this girl said that someone told her to pray for A. Paul on Facebook. The irony is that I wasn't even specifically on Facebook when I was asking God for help. I had logged off of my Facebook. Not only that, but this girl isn't even my friend on Facebook. I've talked to her before, but it's not like we were bosom buddies or anything. She just said like, oh yeah, your interests seem cool, but that's about it. There's no romantic tension. There was not really any kind of existing connection that would have inspired her to wake up in the middle of the night and talk to me. In fact, the last time we had actually discussed, I'm actually going to fact check this as I'm filming it just to make this more authentic. So I'm going to log into my Facebook, and I'm going to log into the last time we had officially spoken in any capacity. So I'm pulling up Messenger right now. And thank goodness my computer is so much faster than it was when I first booted up my computer. So it wasn't a particularly long conversation, so thankfully it's easy to scroll past. The last time she had responded to me was February 23rd, 2020 at 12:04 a.m. And so the last time I had responded was February 22nd, 2020 at 11:08 p.m. So, in other words, we had not spoken for 3 months, maybe 4 months if you do the math. And I even have what I said wrote down right here. I said, if you want to have conversations with me just as friends, I'm cool with that. So in other words, God himself, in all his omnipotent glory, looking past all of the hard, heavy brick walls of our breezeway and the humongous, ridiculous door we have in the backside, no one being in the house but me, he heard me. And he told this girl, the girl that I had said 3 months ago, if you still want to talk as friends, let me know. She messaged me out of the blue. Now, is it possible that this other Paul on Facebook had problems? Maybe. I don't know. But she was very specific, saying it was emotional and mental duress, not physical. Meaning, I wasn't physically hurt, I wasn't in danger, I wasn't in harm, but my brain was in tremendous distress. So God sent exactly who I needed when I needed it. So I guess the moral of the story, to try to keep it as short as possible, is God does hear our prayers. And He can hear our prayers even in instances where we think that we are completely soundproof. And believe me, I did not want to be soundproof. I wanted a real person to hear me. I ran through the house. I was shouting for someone. Turns out I did eventually get help about a half hour later, but at the time I had asked for help straight from God. I had shouted to the ceiling, and this girl sent me help without us contacting, without me reaching out to her. I don't have her phone number. I don't have her email. I honestly, she wasn't even in my brain. Like, if I was to think of all the girls in the world that I could have reached out for to help, she was not one of them. I probably would have asked, I don't know, Kara or Danielle or Allison. So some girl that I hardly even know, who I haven't spoken to in 3 months, who isn't even a potential romantic interest, who I don't even think lives in the same vicinity as me, who's not my friend. Yeah, God can send strangers our way. And even though He sometimes uses different timing for different people, He will hear you if you ask for something. Sometimes His answer might be, not yet. Sometimes He might say, no, it's for your benefit, but He will always answer. So just be thankful, keep praying, and believe. Thanks for listening, guys. And feel free to let me know in the comments section if you have any questions. Bye for now.